All right, just waiting for the live to kick in. All right, everybody, welcome to the stream. Glad you guys could join tonight. Um, Tonight, we were going to go into the Wimbush case on homeschooling, but I made contact with a experienced homeschooler, and I thought it would be really good to have her come on, tell us about her positive experience with homeschooling, since most of what I'm going to be covering is so negative and just so emotionally overwhelming. I thought it would be good to get the perspective of someone who can tell us the good parts about homeschooling, a good experience, how it works, how it's set up, and to ask a few questions if we want to. So let me go ahead and add Marilyn's mic to the stream. Marilyn, are you there?
Yes.
Alrighty. Everybody, this is Marilyn. She is a homeschooler. What I would really like is if you would just kind of give us an overview of homeschooling from your experience. How did you homeschool? Like, did you only homeschool your kids? Did you participate in a co op? And after that, if you'll go into kind of the laws and regulations and requirements in your area as far as oversight and what you had to do to be able to homeschool.
Okay. Well, I only did this for a couple of years, but the situation was that I'm the grandparent of the student, and the mom's work schedule made it impossible to get her child into a public school. So we registered. We're in Nevada. We registered for the program called Connections, which apparently is in most states. And you just go online and register on K-12 Connections Academy. And once you do that, you're already registered with the Nevada public school system. The two are connected already. So we didn't have to do anything but go online, sign up, and they sent us a laptop and all the textbooks.
Okay, cool. So this one wasn't one where you had to like come up with your own curriculum and own schedules and things like that.
Right, exactly. And along with this came a teacher who would check in with us once a week. And we had the phone number so we could call her at any time. And all of the homework, we had actual textbooks, but all of those textbooks were also online so that I could see it. My granddaughter could see it. We saw all the assignments when they were due, everything. So it
Cool.
was really a simple system, and it worked. It worked well.
Awesome. Okay, now in your in the setup that you were using to homeschool, uh did the child have like video classes where the teacher actually laid eyes on the child, talked to them or whatever?
Yes, yeah, they had that. Let's see, it's been a while now. Regularly, they had at least once a week, if not maybe in the second year, every day at the beginning of every day. It was live, uh, a live teacher with the entire class.
Okay, so she had daily contact with someone outside of the home. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Now, when you were homeschooling, did you choose to participate in any like homeschool co-op events for like sports or debate teams? Or I mean, I don't know how old the child was, but in any co-op activities that would have included other children and families?
Well, no, and that was the downside to what we did because mom had the car to go to work, and she had a pretty heavy work schedule, and so we only had one car, and so we could not do that. We could not do outside activities.
Okay, I see.
That's the
But had you
downside.
go
That
ahead?
was the downside for us.
Okay.
We would have
Now,
if we could have.
I'm sorry, I'm trying not to talk over. There's like a slight delay there, so I'm trying not to talk over you. Go ahead and finish what you were saying, and then I'll ask my question.
Well, the downside to the whole program was that we could not get the student to outside activities. And so now she's in public school. And just so because we could not get her out to associate with anybody,
Okay.
after school or otherwise, because of our transportation situation.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was a downside of the thing. But I'm from Hawaii, and when I was there, I knew quite a few homeschoolers, and they had their kids enrolled in all kinds of after school activities. But these parents had 2 cars, so that's a consideration
Okay.
for
Now,
homeschool.
and I do want to touch a little bit more on the Hawaii part of it, but my question that I had was, now you said you couldn't have the child participate in outside events just because of the transportation situation, but had you had the transportation, would that have been an option in Nevada? Like, was that available where you could have signed the child up for outside activities with other people?
Yes, it was. There were clubs and things going on through the homeschool program where we could have connected with other students who wanted to get together. There was that in the homeschool program itself.
Cool.
But there's also the YMCA and Parks and Recreation. There's a lot of things we could have done, but we didn't have the transportation to do it.
Hmm. Oh, definitely, Sooth Mom. She says that she's a homeschooler too, and it's not all bad. There are a lot of benefits, and definitely there is. I actually am very pro homeschooling because I really think in most cases it's better for the child, learning wise. It's just that lack of oversight is the only thing because it makes it so easy to use it as a tool, to hide abuse or whatever. And speaking of which, before we move on to Hawaii, I know that you didn't have like the ability to interact with other families in like a co-op situation or outside activities situations, but were you aware of any like when you signed up for homeschool and they gave you all the information or anything, did they give you any information as far as if you could have participated with other families, ways that you could have reported any abuse that you saw or any type of insight onto what to look for to maybe spot homeschooling in other children that would have interacted with yours? Was any of that available?
No, they did not give us that information. However, I had a talk with her teacher once because I know all about child abuse. I'm an advocate for families in the system,
Okay.
and I talked to her teacher about that once. I forget how the conversation came up, but her teacher was pretty much quite unaware of child abuse issues.
Really? That's
Yeah.
odd since teachers are mandatory reporters. I would have thought that she would have been maybe the main one who would have knowledge as to what to look for, how to report or
Well,
whatever.
yeah. Well, she didn't, but she had been homeschooling for a while. Uh, she had been in school in the beginning, but no, she didn't appear to have any information about
Hmm.
that.
That's crazy. Sleuth Mom, I dropped the link to join the panel if you like. I know you've been doing a lot of lives lately. I didn't realize that you were a homeschool parent. I would really love to hear your insight if you're up to joining the panel. I think it would really add to the conversation. Marilyn, about Hawaii, and I'm very interested in that because there's a case that we've been covering in our community, Ariel Sellers, where homeschooling played a bit of a role and you're aware, you're in the Aerial Sellers group, right?
Yeah,
So you're aware of her situation and
right.
how homeschooling kind of played into that. Could you give me a little more information on the outside resources as far as the child being able to socialize with other people that's available in Hawaii? Are you very familiar with that setup since you weren't homeschooling there?
Well, I'm aware of. Oh, let me think how what you're asking here. First of all, Ariel was abused in the middle of a pandemic. So you consider her age. She was not in school for a while. And then about the time that she would have been in school, the pandemic hit. So that's a little bit different.
She had actually, sorry, hi guys.
Hi,
Ariel
Sleuth.
had actually been in a preschool program. We had a teacher reach out to me and say that they had actually reported child abuse concerns to the caseworker on her case.
Oh,
And yeah, and shortly after those claims were reported, they actually pulled her out of the preschool program. And then, like you said, COVID was the following year, and they opted to do distanced learning. But she had been in like a preschool kindergarten type setting before the abuse claims were reported. And we know that those claims started in July of 2019. Somebody officially called police.
oh,
So
okay. So that's complete lack of attention here on
Yeah,
a number of issues. But I honestly believe, from what I saw in Hawaii and another horrendous case years before, the student was, I think she was, oh, let's say she was 9. She came to school with bruises. The teacher asked her about the bruises, and the child said, I don't know what the child said, but probably something about her parents. And the teacher calls the parents to ask about the bruises. And the parents immediately take her out of school to homeschool her. And 6 months later, her name was Alexis. This was Sleuth mom. If you're from Hawaii, it was down in Puna school.
okay.
And her name was Alexis. She is today 21 and permanently disabled because this teacher asked her about bruises at school. Instead of calling the police, called her parents. And that was it for the child. Parents took her out of school.
Imagine.
Yeah, so I don't think the teachers are trained very well.
No, and that's a big part of their training nowadays. I know it wasn't as much 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they still lack in a lot of areas. I think one of the biggest problems I've noticed, because we do a homeschool / computer type program for my son. Like he does a lot of his work is on the computer through a like a cyber type thing. And I've noticed that it seems as if the quote unquote teachers that teach him are not actually licensed educators. They are just people who are there to read the script basically of the book or whatever it is. And so kind of like what you were saying about how, the teacher for your daughter didn't really know what you were referring to. Or like didn't think about abuse that way. I think because a lot of the homeschool type programs utilize similar to what a substitute teacher would be in a school. Their background
Oh,
check, stuff
okay.
like
Now this
that.
one, I know this one wasn't like that because she mentioned that she had taught in the public schools before.
Yeah. Okay.
But she
She
didn't appear to She didn't appear to be very attuned to that when she really should have been, because she was on the phone with them every week.
Right.
You know,
see, that's sad if she had the proper training and still wasn't watching for it. Because,
yeah,
like I said, ours is kind of a different situation. You know, I utilize computer programs, but we also do a lot of book learning. And then, of course, we're active in a homeschool co-op. We go weekly on Fridays. He does gym class, wood shop, metal
right,
shop, all through our homeschool co-op that's run out of our church, actually. And then we have, you know, we do taekwondo and stuff in the evenings so that he remains physically active
right,
with other kids.
right.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Sleuth Mom, since you actually participate in a co-op, could you give us a better idea of how co-ops are set up and how they operate, how the parents interact with each other as far as educating the children and such, and planning out maybe what field trips or
Yeah, so like in ours specifically, we we all take turns teaching the classes kind of. We do a constitutional um oh my goodness, like a constitutional literacy class. We do a Bible class, and like I said, there's wood shop, gym, and we do lunch at the homeschool co-op, arts and crafts, music, stuff like that. And so basically, the teachers, we rotate for each age group who is in which section. We even run a nursery at ours as well, because the entire family comes. I take my infant daughters with us as well, and so, you know, it's really just like a family get together while we educate these kids.
that's good.
awesome.
That's interesting.
It really
Yeah,
is.
it's really nice. And then for field trips and stuff like that, we have class on Fridays, and then field trips we typically do on Mondays once a month, so that we go to different, you know, educational places in the area. And thankfully, our church actually has a bus that we're able to take to those events.
Oh, that's a plus.
Yeah, it's nice.
Okay, so I would like to ask you the same questions that I asked her as far as since you are in a co-op and interacting with other children and other parents, does your co-op have anything in place as far as if one of you should notice what you think might be abuse going on with one of the other students?
Right. So we do have mandatory reporters at our co-op. We have a nurse who comes, and then we also have our pastor who is a mandatory reporter. He kind of operates as the like the principal, quote unquote, of the co-op. He's present every Friday while we're doing this. He actually teaches the wood shop and the metal shop classes.
Hmm.
And then our assistant pastor is there for gym class. And so there's, you know, 3 of the mandatory reporters basically that interact with the children every Friday.
Cool, cool. And have you ever had, or anyone that you're like closely familiar with, have you ever had an experience where there has been like child abuse going on with any of the children, or have you heard any stories from reliable other parents where they had to deal with a situation like that?
So not within this homeschool co-op. I do know that there was a child that had an incident that was reported, not within our church. It was just somebody who had come to one of our events, and it was caught pretty quickly. Um, the issues that was there.
Good, good. The last question on this topic, and then I want to ask you a couple of other questions. In your homeschool co-op, do you guys do any like specific training or education for the parents as far as what to look for, what to notice, aside from what the mandatory reporters may be trained on, but just as the regular parents, do you guys get any type of education on spotting child abuse?
We really don't, and that's probably something that we should do. Um, I think I think that that would definitely be something that we could improve upon. You know what I mean? Because as of right
Yeah.
now, like I said, the moms kind of cycle through the classes. We take turns, you know, who's watching the little ones, who's whatever. And I will note that every single adult member that comes to this co-op, we are all background checked. We all have our child abuse clearances before you're allowed to come and participate in the co-op. That's something that they require. And so just to make sure that the people who are being exposed to the kids don't have criminal records and don't have child abuse histories.
Awesome.
Oh.
That is actually a really good idea, so that you know who your kids are around,
Right.
and
They
at
do that
least
for
have a
every
good idea of
member
what
of our
type of person
church.
it is.
Every member of our church that helps out with any type of the children activities gets background checked and child abuse history clearances.
And that's how it should be, because I've noticed in a lot of
Yeah, and
daycare
they have to get
facilities and
renewed.
small
Every
schools
year
or
they
whatever
renew
that
us.
operate through churches, they generally don't have requirements, because they fall under like different guidelines as far as state. It's not like a private commercial business where people are mandated to have background checks or whatever. When it's operating through a church, there's like loopholes there. I know in
Right.
my hometown, we had a daycare that was operated through some type of religious organization, and an incident occurred with a child, and it came out that there were several people working at that daycare center who, had they been working at like a regular commercial daycare, they never would have gotten a job because of their background.
Yeah. See, and my pastor, he is very, it's not even that he, it's not about not trusting his members, but at the same time, he views safety as a very important thing. And so he never wants to expose a child to somebody who may be unsafe for them. And so, it just helps to just have that peace of mind that, okay, everybody in this room is background checked. Everyone has their child abuse clearances. We all have to renew it every 12 months. And so they make sure that, you continue to stay on the up and up.
All right. I have one more question for you, Sleuth Mom, and then I'm going to pass the mic to Marilyn so that she can give any more thoughts that she might have on
Okay.
the topic. The question that I have for you is, you said that you guys kind of rotate who teaches which classes and which age groups. Do you guys kind of get head to head and decide, well, this is the best person at math, they're really good at it, or this person has a degree that would make it better for them to teach reading?
Yeah, so we don't teach the main core classes. We do mostly like elective type things.
Okay.
And so we don't really have to worry about that as much, but we do have, the curriculum set out, and everybody knows prior to going what they're going to be teaching that week, so that you can look at the curriculum for, like I said, we do art. That way you can plan for what supplies you need to bring, music, so that you know what songs you guys are going to go over, and like the different notes, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Wood shop, of course, is, they just cut wood.
Yeah.
um, so it's
Boy
kind of
stuff.
set up like that.
All right. And for both of you, and I'll let Marilyn answer first. Oh God, the question just totally skipped out of my head. Oh,
And I
okay.
was going to
For
say something too, and that left me too.
the question was, as far as I know that in most states and in most jurisdictions, there's no educational requirement for people who choose to homeschool, and like they don't necessarily even have to have a high school diploma. I did notice in my research that some places do require like at least a minimum of a high school diploma in order for you to homeschool your child. In your respective areas, are there any requirements in place that a parent wishing to homeschool, either in a co-op setting or on their own, are there any educational requirements that the parent has to have a minimum level of education?
No, no, and connections. There's no requirements whatsoever.
Okay.
But the curriculum was pretty easy to understand, and we had 5-day a week access to the teachers if we had to ask a question. I mean, the math these days, that's not anywhere near what
Yeah,
how I
that new math is something else.
that's it for everybody. But you see, I could call the teacher and say, look, I'm just not getting this. Why don't you explain it to me one more time? And that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so, no, we not in the program that we were in, no requirements. And I sort of get a little upset when anti-homeschoolers say that moms or grandmas or the teachers have to have requirements. No, I don't think they should. As long as I can read and write, it's kind of like going to school all over again.
True.
You know, I don't think they should have to have a teaching certificate to do homeschool. As long as they can read and write and ask the teacher questions if there is a teacher, which there was for us.
That makes sense. And in your area, Sleuth Mom, outside of co-ops, if you were to choose to homeschool just like on your own at home, are there any minimum educational requirements that you would have to meet?
Yeah, I have to have a high school diploma, which I do. And then like we do homeschool like in general. Like I teach him his reading, his math, his language. He does do an online program as well, but there's a lot that we do on our own. But I will say that I live in like one of the strictest states for homeschool laws. And so we have to jump through hoops each year, medical records getting sent in,
Like,
portfolios of what we've completed. We have to have an evaluator at the end of the year, stuff like that, to just show that there was progress made in their learning. He has graduation projects and credits that he'll have to do before he's able to obtain his homeschooling diploma, stuff like that. So the state that I live in is, very, very strict.
I like that because in a lot of the cases that I'm going to end up presenting in this scenario, there's like zero requirements. Like I said in some earlier videos, there's no requirement to show any proof that the child has received any type of education at all.
Hmm.
Not even learning their ABCs. And one of the cases in particular, the child was taken out of school, and then that was just it. They were taken out of school and basically locked in an attic for the next few years being abused. Um,
Okay, now
I
here,
will.
well, let me go back to connections here now in Nevada and all the other states where connections was. There was a grading system. You had to pass.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
if you
Yeah,
were,
what you're
yeah,
referring to is kind of like an online school. They still have accountability for attendance, grades, things like that.
yeah.
You do it at home, but it's a lot like virtual learning through the public school system,
Well,
basically.
that's exactly what Nevada, the one we did, that's exactly what ours was.
Mm-hmm.
And so they knew if if your student was failing, somebody knew about it. You didn't just
Yeah, you didn't
fail
fly
and
under
then
the radar.
disappear.
There's a lot more oversight in the online schools than there is.
Yeah.
Like say we have to log hours. We have to have certain amounts of hours logged.
Actually, we did too. You just reminded me of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have to log hours. We have to complete 180 days.
right. We
We have
did
to do.
too.
Yep.
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
Yepers. But it's very different. And one thing that I'll add in this is, I see the benefits to homeschooling because whenever I was working, for example, I never seen my kids. I was either at work because I worked night shift and they were at school during the day. And so it was better for me to homeschool so that I was able to spend that quality time with them during the day and before I went to work in the evenings. And so I see the benefits of having that nurturing. I do believe that there is a certain aspect of learning that comes from life experiences. That my
Hmm.
children will know how to wash clothes and do dishes and balance their checkbook and all of the things that you don't necessarily get in public school. And so there's that benefit as well. He'll know how to sew a button on his pants or, different things that, might not be quite the focus. Changing a
Definitely.
tire, changing the oil in his car. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. And so there are certain benefits to that hands on learning that you get outside of the classroom setting. But there's also, like you're going to go into, Savage, the bad side of things. There is, we both cover the cases. You know what I mean? There is
Yeah,
that side of things where the oversight's not there. And I'm not saying that every single family should have the government walking into your house at any given time to check on your children, but these ones that have DCYF, CPS involvement, I feel like need oversight, and they need a
exactly.
system where their children are being seen.
Exactly. And I feel like homeschooling, I don't think it should have like really super tight, strict, or overwhelming oversight, simply because one of the great benefits of homeschooling is that flexibility to be able to do what you do. I think I used Red, White, and Bethune as an example before. They travel across the country. There's no way in the world they could possibly come back home every week or every month to
Right.
check in or have their kids, a mandatory reporter lay eyes on them. But to have that at least a minimum requirement of maybe every 3 months or some aspect of regular video contact or something that would put the child in front of other eyes outside of the family. um, I do think it's a great thing, especially like you were saying, the life experience. I know, like in my grandmother's time or whatever, they had courses at school that kind of prepared them for life with the home ec and giving them skills. Some kids were graduating high school and they already had at least vocational certifications where they could go get a job as a welder or as a mechanic or something like that in plumbing or electricity. And they don't do that anymore. So there is that great value that you get to teach your kids not only book stuff, but you can teach them other things too. You can teach them how to cook as part of their education. You can teach them, like you said, changing the oil, sewing a button on, balancing their checkbooks, things that are going to really benefit them in life.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make the stream really long tonight. I It was really a pleasant opportunity to talk about something in homeschooling besides just all the horrible stuff that goes on, because we know that the horrible stuff goes on. I really just wanted to have a lighter tone to the stream tonight, some positivity in the midst of all the true crime that we cover. Marilyn and Sleuth Mom, I really do appreciate you guys joining the stream, giving your insight, your experience. Um, Before I end the stream, is there anything either of you would like to say as far as what you think could be done uh, to get better oversight on homeschool or anything else related to homeschool?
Yeah. First of all, in 2018, when a child in Hilo died due to having been pulled out of school, she had a long history with CPS. Okay, and because of that, the parents pulled her out. Well, and they starved her to death. The legislators got all excited about making sure that they were going to pass a bill to investigate every single parent, not only who intended to homeschool, but to extend it to investigate everyone who was already homeschooling. Now that bill was terrible. I told them so, and they laughed. And then the homeschool parents showed up at the Capitol building and killed it. Because here's the deal. If a parent wants to kill their child, they're going to find a way.
Yeah.
The state cannot prevent that. And the knee-jerk reaction to create a bill that puts the authorities into the home of a homeschooler that disregards Fourth Amendment rights is not the solution.
It really isn't.
You know, so I'm just saying that you got to be careful about being too careful about parents who homeschool and being so paranoid about the fact that they might be abusing their children. Sure, some of them
Exactly.
are, But they're not the only ones who abuse their children or murder them. And so you got to be careful about not trampling on parental rights to raise their children, including their education, and not trampling on their unalienable rights just because one homeschool child was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And now, Ariel is the second one. But there were other things that worked there other than Ariel.
I think
the U.S. messed up, and I know how they messed up. It wasn't the homeschool that killed that child. It was several other things the
Definitely
CW
so.
failed to do.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's where my thought process is too a little bit, because I don't think the average person needs strict homeschool oversight. I do believe that, parents should be able to homeschool their children if they see fit, as long as there's not a CPS involvement. The minute
right.
that you're being investigated for any type of child abuse, child neglect, sexual abuse, anything like that, that's whenever, okay, so maybe your kid needs to be seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No,
Because we
see, but when
obviously can't trust you to be around your own child. So
See, when
anytime that,
CWS is involved, they're not going to allow homeschooling
but they do.
in the first place. Well,
They do, and that's the problem, because a kid could be, look at Oakley Carlson, for example. She was not sent to school yet or whatever, and she could have been in a kindergarten program. They kept her
Yeah.
out intentionally because she was no more. And so it's just, or even Harmony, she's 7 and was never enrolled in school. Why? Did they just assume that she was getting homeschooled? Do you get what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
yeah.
so anytime that there's any type of CPS, CWS, DCYF, whatever you want to call it, involvement, I don't think that those kids should be able to just be homeschooled. I feel like they should be required, once there is some type of involvement from the state, that, I'm sorry, if you were a homeschooler and CPS gets involved, okay, now your kid's in public school. Or, um, you know, even for foster parents, adoptive parents, I'm sorry to infringe upon their rights to homeschool their children that they may be fostering or adopting, but I don't feel like they should have the right to that, because unfortunately, we're watching how many foster parents and adoptive parents do something like this. And so that's where
Exactly.
I think the oversight needs to come in. If these parents are going to homeschool their children, I think that those type of parents should be required to be in some type of oversight program so that their kids are getting seen. And
Now,
not
I
all those
definitely.
parents, not
Oh, go ahead.
your
Finish your thought.
everyday parents, but the ones that have this CPS involvement, CWS involvement, or have been through this system. Frankly, kids that have gone through foster care have a lot of times mental health issues that
Yeah,
even a
I agree.
counselor, even if they were going to be homeschooled and have to see a counselor, twice a week or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
that would be fine for oversight, because they're being seen by someone. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not an every child thing. I don't think, like I said, I would hate it if the government were to walk into my house and tell me how to teach my kids something. I've never done anything wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's never been any type of
Yeah.
suspicions of abuse or anything like that. But whenever you look at these kids that have this, the kids that, or whatever, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, you just have to be careful about getting overboard on this. Yeah, we need solutions, but you got to be careful about trampling on people's constitutional rights.
but is
And
the
not
Mm-hmm.
right
just
to privacy for
right.
parents who have abused their children in the past or neglected their children in the past more important than the safety of these children?
That's where
Well,
the question comes in. I definitely don't think that children who are actively in foster care, being fostered, should be permitted to be homeschooled,
oh
for the
no, I
simple
agree
fact that
with
you
you.
already have a history of at least neglect, if not abuse. And so that's a child that you definitely want um, in a position where there are eyes on them. to be able to notice what's going on outside eyes. I when it comes to adoptives, I kind of feel like once you adopt a child, that's your child. If you want to homeschool them,
Yeah.
then you should be able to do
Yeah.
so.
But
But
think about
I
Orrin
think
and
there
Orson
should be
West.
exactly. I think there should be a time frame on that, like we saw with Ariel. She was adopted legally; she was their child, but they used homeschooling relatively quickly after the adoption to try to cover up what was going on. So
She was
maybe
homeschooled prior to her adoption. She started getting homeschooled that September. She was adopted in January.
is that what that was? Because I read that
Hmm.
they notified the school in June that they were going to homeschool. I know she
Yeah,
was in the distance
before
learning
she was
class.
adopted, June was the end of the school year, and so they let them know that they were going to homeschool her that coming September.
Right. Yeah.
I was under the impression she was in distance learning until then, though.
Yeah,
I
she
could.
was
Well,
in
that was
distance learning
pandemic.
until June.
That was the pandemic, so everybody was home then.
Right.
Yeah, everybody
She
was
was in
home then.
distance learning
Yeah.
until June, and then at the end of June, they informed them that she would not be back, essentially.
Right.
Hmm.
But that's
Well,
what I mean. Like, even adoptive parents, like, I'm sorry, but there's just too many
Yeah, I don't
kids
think
that
they
we're seeing
should.
getting sexually abused, physically abused, disappearing. And as far as I'm concerned, you only get as much freedom as the biggest idiot in your village.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
like I said, regular parents, people who, aren't going through this system, go for it. Homeschool your kids, be free, do your thing, however you want to teach your kids, as long as they are progressing each year and learning something, that's on
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean? But
Right.
as soon as these state organizations get involved, it becomes the nation's job to protect your children, and we can't protect your children if we can't
Yeah.
see them.
Right.
Exactly. Now, along with what you were saying, as far as like the oversight, one thought that I had was the accountability. Like, even if it's not, you got to bring your kids somewhere for someone to see them. How you guys are saying you were required to show proof that they were being educated. They had to be able to pass certain tests, or you had to document time spent educating and different things like this, grading systems and such. Even something as simple as that, not necessarily having to go out of your way and change your schedule to get your child in front of an actual person, but even some form of accountability. Like you were saying, Marilyn, with the everyday started with a live session or whatever, but just some kind of
Right.
contact to show that that child is doing something, making some type of progress. Because in some of the cases that I'm going to present, a lot of the issues just simply came in that there was no contact at all with this child with anyone outside of the home. They were
I
just
just remembered too, the second year, my granddaughter was in downtown Las Vegas taking tests. Now that was because we were connected to the public school. So she was downtown twice in a huge convention center taking tests. So she was exposed then twice during that last year that she was doing this. So she was there.
Even if she had never come in contact with anyone, that's how you guys chose to do it. That's what worked for your family. And that's great, because you guys didn't have your kids taken away by CPS. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Right.
you guys do that, like you said, that's your yeah.
But anyway, there
right.
was my granddaughter was seen twice
Mhm.
during the year to take these
Yeah, the placement test.
tests. So she was seen. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's definitely a
Even
good
in
thing.
the homeschool program, usually, well, I'm sure a lot of homeschool programs, well, maybe not, have that in their states, or they have to show up someplace to take a test.
I know ours here, like they even do, not the one that my son's involved with, but the one that's through the state, they actually do a prom, they do a graduation ceremony, like they do all of that for the homeschool kids.
Oh,
Yeah, they
I'm
go.
not familiar with the Hawaii homeschool at all, and I've been really curious about what you have because I know you don't have connections.
No,
because
see,
we
I'm
checked.
not in Hawaii. I'm just really close to
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, yeah.
Oh, okay. No wonder you're talking about all these things that, Hawaii doesn't have much. Those parents over there, they are not during, during the pandemic, there was distance learning from the public schools, but the real homeschool program in Hawaii, that's real. Boy, those parents have to do it all because
Yeah.
they don't have what we have over here on the mainland.
Yeah, and I know that Ghost Protocol on Instagram, I don't know if you know who he is. I don't know who he is as a person, but I know that he has asked me about the details of how our homeschool co-op runs here because he really likes the programs that ours does. They even go from house to house and they'll fix different things and help clean up houses for just like as a community outreach type project through the summer. So they do stuff like that too. And so I know that he is reaching out to like a whole bunch of people who are interested in homeschooling to try to get like a homeschool type of thing set up on Oahu.
Yeah, because I
That would
know
be an
the
awesome idea.
Hawaii parents, they're on their own, man. They have to be very creative and they have to pay a lot for materials.
Yeah.
And they have to do a lot of it just hands-on on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Because Hawaii is a long way from the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So,
I am getting a little tired, ladies. I really and truly thank you for joining. I thank you for your perspectives and your insights, sharing your experiences and your knowledge, because I am clueless when it comes to the inner workings of homeschooling. I only know what I see in the news, and what I hear or read as I cover these different cases. So it was really refreshing to hear some positive things about homeschooling from people who actually have experience in that.
yeah, I
I'm
like
going to
it.
end this live.
I like the program a lot.
Right. And you said your grandchildren actually ended up transitioning over to public school at a later time, right?
She's in public school now because of the mom's different work schedule is able to get her in there just to be around other kids. But
Okay.
we still cannot do after school activities because we need 2 cars to do that.
Yeah.
But that's why she's in public school, because she was just too separated from human beings.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and close the panel off so that I can close this video and we can all get some rest for the night. Thank you for joining. Marilyn,
Okay.
you're always welcome to come back anytime. If there's ever a topic that we're covering that you'd like to have some input on. Sleuth Mom, you know that you are always welcome on my channel at any time. I will just hand the controls over to you and you can do your thing because you are amazing. Sleuth Mom for President 2024.
Right. I won't be old enough yet, but someday.
someday. Build up that reputation so you'll be in there. You'll be a shoe-in.
Right.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me
So,
on, Savage. I appreciate it.
thanks for coming on. Anytime. All right.
Have a good night.
Okay, so tonight we didn't go into the Wimbush case. I will kind of adjust the descriptions and I will set up another live, and on the next live we'll go into the Wimbush case. We're already at like 50 minutes, and on top of that, after having heard such good and positive things, I don't really want to come back and throw that type of just awful stuff on top of such a positive live. So, good night, all, and I will see you again next Thursday night at 10:30 p.m. And we will get back into the Wimbush case then. Good night.